Talk about the most expensive countries in the world, Switzerland comes to the top of mind for sure, and to the extent that Forbes in 2024 has listed Zurich and Geneva as one of the top 5 most expensive cities to live in the world. But just how expensive is expensive? That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Olivia and I do videos related to Swiss travels and living in Switzerland. And today I just wanted to do an in-depth video guide on the cost of living as a local in Switzerland, and hopefully this will give a sense for those of you that are coming to Switzerland and want to know a little bit more about the cost and the expenses, how it's like really to live like a local in Switzerland. Realize that over 95% of you have yet to subscribe to the channel, so if you've not already done so, do hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so you will not miss any of my future videos. And without further ado, let's get going. First, let's start with your biggest expenses, which is most likely going to be your rent. This will very much depend on the city you live, with prices being the highest in cities like Zurich, Geneva, and Basel, while in smaller rural towns, it's going to be more affordable. So my monthly rent in this apartment is 2,000 a month, and because it's shared with my husband, so I pay a monthly rent of 1,000 a month. And just a disclaimer that for all the upcoming expenses, it will be divided by 2 because I split evenly the cost with my spouse. Now let's talk about taxes. Now Switzerland has a unique tax system where taxes are levied at the federal, the cantonal and the municipal levels, and the rates will also depend very much on where you live. The average tax rate can range between 10 to 40% of your income. So for instance, in places like in Canton Vaud, it has a relatively high tax level, whereas in other cantons, say in Zug, it is very much known for lower taxes. So a lot of businessmen and a lot of high-income earners, they will prefer to live in cantons where the tax is much lower. The type of permit will also determine whether you will be taxed directly at source or whether you will be taxed annually. So if you have a permit B, the taxes will be deducted automatically from your salary at the end of each month. So whereas if you have a permit C, you are responsible for declaring your own tax annually. So in the past, when I was on the permit B, my taxes was deducted automatically from my monthly salary slip. But after I have gotten my permit C, that's no longer the case. You are required to file your tax annually at some time of the year. I think it's like April. If you have not yet watched my video on how I got my permit C in Switzerland, you can click the link up here where you can watch it. Then there are also other taxes that I pay as a dog owner. So yes, in Switzerland, you pay dog taxes for owning a dog. And I think it's about 80 francs a year. So each month is about 3 francs a month. There is also the radio and television fee. I'm not sure whether it counts as taxes, but I'm just gonna categorize it as taxes. So this Seraphe fee is your contribution to public service in the field of electronic media. So you pay for the service of the radio and the television like RTS, which is like a free television network. It's 335 a year per household, which is about 160 a year per person, and that totals up to about 13 francs a month for this radio and television fee. So yes, even though right now I feel a lot richer when I receive my monthly salary slip, but you do need to make a mental note to set aside some money each month to account for the taxes that you will eventually pay. So myself, I set aside about 1,000 francs a month just for taxes. So in total, the amount I spend on taxes is 1,016 francs. Moving on, we have the various social deductions in Switzerland. The first of it is the first pillar, also called the old age and survivors insurance, and this is about 5% of your income that you have to set aside for this first pillar. Then there is this second pillar. It's also known as the mandatory occupational pension. It's designed to supplement the first pillar, the old age pillar, and so that when you eventually retire, you can maintain. It's a bit like your CPF. I don't know how you call that in Singapore, but basically it's like a pension money that you set aside so that when you retire, you get this sum of money that is given to you when you're older to supplement your cost of living. Both the employer and employee will contribute to this second pillar. You can decide how much you want to contribute, and personally, I opt for the maximum of my age limit. So I contribute 7% to this second pillar, and likewise my employer will put in the same percentage that I put in. Third pillar is called the voluntary private pension savings. It's designed to fill any gaps and provide additional financial security during your retirement. There is this pillar 3A, it's a tax deductible savings schemes, and there is a maximum annual contribution that you can set aside, and this is tax tax deductible, meaning, you know, when you put money in this account, this is, you can deduct taxes from it. So, and this money is locked in until retirement. So you can use it to buy a home, or if you're self-employed, you can use this money, or when you're moving out of Switzerland, you can take out this sum of money. And it's a great way to save for retirement while reducing your income taxable. And then finally, there is the unemployment insurance, which you contribute to this pool. It's mandatory to do so, so that in the event that you're unemployed, you can tap on this pool to benefit from unemployment insurance. And you will get a monthly payout if you lose your job. So the total amount that I pay for social contributions, everything in total, it sums up to 1,604.50 cents. The next cost category is utilities, and personally I'm surprised because I find that the amount I pay for utilities is much lower than how much I would pay back in Singapore. So the total cost, so we are billed every 3 months, and the bill comes up to 150 for 3 months. So we pay 50 francs a month. So after divided by 2, I pay about 25 francs per month for electricity. Then we also have the conservancy charges, which is 85 francs a year, which is crazy because in Singapore, I think the conservancy charges, if I remember correctly, it's about already 100 plus a month. Conservancy charges are much lower here. 85 francs a year, which is 7 francs a month. And water and heating is already included in my rent, so I don't count that. But I have to point out that in Switzerland, garbage disposal is regulated. It's not counted as part of your conservancy charges. So instead, you need to buy like this official garbage bags. You can only use this bag when you are throwing your rubbish, at least in Canton Vaud. And this costs about 2 to 3 francs per bag. It's like a large 35-liter bag, and you pay 2 francs each time you throw your garbage. Next category is insurance, and it's one of the highest costs that will come up in your monthly expenses living in Switzerland. Personally, right now, I have a basic insurance with a deductible of 2,500 because right now I'm still healthy. So I opted for a high deductible, and I also topped up a supplementary insurance so that I have a semi-private bed, like a ward, like in the event that I get hospitalized, like I get a semi-private ward. So that's what I opted for. And right now I'm paying 417 francs a month for my personal health insurance. I think that's really expensive because in Singapore, for my monthly insurance, I pay it annually, but I think it's only about 2,000 to 3,000 plus. So comparing in Switzerland, health insurance is really much more expensive. And I also pay insurance for my dog, also health insurance in the event that he gets into an accident or have some illnesses. After splitting the cost with my husband, I pay about 33 francs a month for his insurance. So in total, my spending for health insurance for myself and my pet is 450 francs a month. It's quite a significant amount of my monthly expenses. Let's talk about the cost of eating out. So I guess you have known by now that eating out is not a cheap affair in Switzerland. Normally, a very normal meal at an inexpensive restaurant would already set you back between 20 to 50 francs. For a 3-course meal at a mid-range restaurant, you can easily expect to pay between 50 francs to 100 francs per person. And even fast food itself is not cheap. Like the cheapest thing you can get is probably a kebab, like a takeaway kebab. It will normally cost you about 7 to 10 francs, and a meal at McDonald's will set you back about 15 francs, and that's already considered relatively affordable in Switzerland. Enjoy eating out. I think Switzerland offers a good variety of food, but it does come at a price. And I think that I'm lucky in a sense that as a content creator, often I get invited for food tastings, for reviews, for working with brands and restaurants. So normally I don't pay for my dining expenses, but I think that's normal because it's part of my job as a content creator and I need the food to create the content. So that's how it is. So it's like a part of my payment. So my dining out cost is quite low. I also don't drink a lot, and I think that's a really effective cost-saving method because once you order a cocktail or you order wine, is still quite okay. It's not that expensive in Switzerland, but if you're talking about like alcohol, like spirits, aperos, I think those are quite expensive. It's always like between 27 francs and above for each cocktail. And I'm a person that don't drink a lot. Like I can't even finish a glass of wine. So that's good for me. I save a lot of money just by not consuming alcohol. So overall, I would say that the maximum I spend per month eating out is between 50 francs to 200 francs, but I will put it as 50 francs per month. Next up, we have transport, and this I think is by far one of the costlier part of living in Switzerland. So as a local, you will most likely have a half-fare card. I think they increased the cost because previously it was 125 francs a year, but the last time I checked it's now 190 francs a year. And if you're renewing it, then it's slightly lower, it's 170 francs. So how the half-fare card works is that you pay for the ticket, for the half fare itself, and for all of your subsequent rides in Switzerland, whether it's bus or trains or trams, it's going to be 50% of the cost. So if you're normally a ticket from, let's say, Zurich to Lausanne will cost you 80 francs, with the half fare card, you will be paying 40 francs for your ride. If you need more information on how to take the public transport in Switzerland, please check my previous video here or here. It will give you much more information on what to expect when it comes to public transportation in Switzerland. And right now there is this new scheme that I'm using. It's called the Half Fare Card Plus. So how it works is that I pay 120 francs 125 francs if I remember correctly. I paid this base rate for the half fare card, and then I deposit 1,500 francs as like credit, and they gave me a bonus of 500 francs once I utilize all 1,500 francs. So in summary, I get like 2,000 francs worth of credits for the price of 1,500 francs, and so far it is more cost effective than me getting the GA, which is like the Abonnement Général, because that one is right now, if I'm not wrong, the annual cost of that concession is almost close to 5,000 francs. I think it's 4,800 francs. So it's so freaking expensive. It just doesn't work out for me given the average amount of commute that I take. It's 6 months since I got the half fare card plus, and so far I have spent 1,081 francs. So on average per month, I would say I spend about 180 francs on public transport, and if I divide the cost of the half fare card itself, in total it's about 200 francs a month on transport. I think it's quite a lot, but the good thing is that I spend nothing. I do not take cabs. I don't take taxis or Uber in Switzerland because that one is just like insane. Like a trip from Geneva to Lausanne, I think it would easily be 100 francs or 150 francs, and if you take it at night after you come back from the airport, I've seen it going up to 200 francs. So I think one tip for you is never ever take taxis or Uber in Switzerland. It's just not like how it is in Asia, where it's very easy and very cheap. It's one of the most expensive things you can do to blow your budget in Switzerland. Next up, let's talk about the cost of groceries. Groceries is very expensive in Switzerland. I really still cry at the price sometimes. The only consolation is that I find that in general, fruits and vegetables are much fresher than what is imported in Singapore. I really appreciate the seasonality and the freshness of the produce here. And so much so that whenever my parents or my parents-in-law, they come to Switzerland, every single day they will be at the supermarket because they really love how fresh the fruits and the vegetables are, and just how amazing the quality and the quantity is. I would say there are mainly 3 main supermarkets that I frequent. The first one would be Lidl, because it's the nearest to my apartment, and it's really affordable, much more affordable. It's a German brand actually, not a Swiss brand, but they have a good selection. Otherwise, I will go to Misc for more local produce, and Co-op because I think it has much more selections, and also when it comes to alcohol, like it's not sold in Misc, only Co-op serves alcohol. So whenever we want to get like wines and etc., and if you want more like imported produce from other countries, then normally I will go to Co-op. Then there is another like low budget option. I think I will compare that to like your Sheng Siong or maybe like a Shop and Save. Is there still Shop and Save in Singapore? I don't know, but it's more like a budget alternative. But I don't think the quality is as good as say Misc or Co-op. I do know that certain people, like they will go into France to buy their groceries because it is significantly cheaper than doing so in Switzerland, but it's just that I don't have a car, and it doesn't make sense for me to spend like 2 hours back and forth doing my groceries just to save that amount of money. So we figured that it's just easier to do our shopping in Switzerland. But meat, especially meat, is like really very expensive in Switzerland. Like 1 kg of chicken at Co-op is easily like 25 francs. So we try not to consume like meat every day. So in total, we spend about 800 francs per month on groceries, and when divided by 2, I would say I spend about 400 francs a month on groceries. Then now it comes to miscellaneous, for example, like buying gifts for friends, for birthdays or anniversaries, and also doing some regular shopping. I don't think I do that much of a shopping. So I would say I will set aside about 200 francs when it comes to miscellaneous stuff, just to pamper yourself, give yourself a treat or two. Now let's come to the total cost of how much I spend a month living in Switzerland. The amount for me rounds up to 4,955.5 Swiss francs. Like a disclaimer, because this amount includes the taxes that I pay and also like the amount that I set aside for my pension. So this amount sounds high, but if I were to remove that and just really focus on like the cost, like the daily living expenses, then this amount will go down to 3,305 Swiss francs. I share this not to flex like, oh, this is how much I spend, how rich I am, but really to give a little bit more transparency on like, as a local, these are the average amount that I spend typically in a month, and I hope that it gives you a little bit more insight on what are the cost considerations that you should think about if you are thinking of settling in Switzerland, and which cost component is maybe one of the higher side that you need to consider. To be honest, I felt that this was quite a good exercise for me because normally I don't even track my monthly spending, so filming this video really forced me to be accountable for like what are the category of expenses that I spend. And after looking at the figures, I think I'm pretty satisfied with my level of spending. And I do want to point out that, I mean, despite the cost looking quite high, I do have to say that I'm still able to save quite a decent bit, even with all that level of, even with the current cost. So maybe just something I want to point out is that you do earn higher salaries in Switzerland after all. So I think the higher level of expense is accounted for also by your level, your income levels. So maybe that kind of compensates for this high cost of living. Also at this stage of my life where we're just two of us and we've no other commitments, I think that also gives us a little bit more spending power because we don't have other obligations on hand, like maybe spending on kids, like education loans. So I think that also allows us to live a little bit more comfortably without so much mortgages or other huge spendings that would take a toll on our expenses. So that's it. I hope that you found this sharing useful, and also let me know in the comments like how much do you spend in a month in Switzerland? Do you think that my expenses, is it considered high or is it considered reasonable or low in your opinion? Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!